Thank you very much, Matt. Yes, the weather conditions have been absolutely glorious for that first free practice session. We've got another hour coming up now, John. Bridgestone's looking good in the first hour, but the track is beginning to get cleaner and cleaner now.
Well, Montreal, being like any street track, is a temporary race track used basically for the Grand Prix cars once a year. No testing on it. And it will come by the time they get into this 1 hour session, the track will be quicker. And I would expect to see, well, we saw a great time from Barrichello, 16.930. We could even see a second being shaved off that. And that's going to bring us probably close to within half a second of qualifying time from last year. Now, that would be, I think, almost unheard of on a Friday afternoon in Montreal, because it does take time for the circuit to build up that layer of rubber that will give the teams. Interesting, talking about McNish saying they're running a fairly low downforce. This circuit traditionally is a medium-high downforce circuit, and I wonder if the Toyota team might decide to put a bit more downforce into the car to give the drivers the confidence and the grip to enable them then to go a little bit more quickly, and then as the track itself picks up time, then back off on that downforce. I think some of the teams are doing that this morning. Maybe Toyota might learn from other teams.
Well, there you are, fantastic view across the St. Lawrence Seaway here and across the city of Montreal itself. Absolutely clear blue sky, barely a cloud in sight, and conditions could not be more perfect for this Friday free practice session. A chance for the teams to reacquaint themselves with this track. The area that was developed for Expo in 1967, and also part of this used for the Olympics in 1976. The area, the water on the side, used for the rowing competitions, and as we heard from Mark Webber in the break there, Mark involved in rowing competitions earlier on this week. The team's often getting involved in aquatic adventures here in Canada. In the past it's been raft racing, this time it was more serious rowing competition, and Mark Webber certainly enjoyed himself there. Juan Pablo Montoya wasn't out here particularly early, only getting into Montreal the day before the start of all the track action itself, but nonetheless enjoying himself here in this very lively Canadian city. And there, Jenson Button preparing to come out for hopefully a little bit less troubled time in this second session.
TCS map 3 and this map 4 changes as we spoke. It's got a different engine and a number 2 rear bar on the car, as you know. We'll do an install, no oil dip after that, so a big quick check under the body and then out for 3 or 4 time laps just to get ready for the rest of the program, as you know.
Well, that's what a driver has to go through these days. It's a lot more sophisticated, a lot more complex. Jenson Button had a bit of a difficult start to his session. He had a misfire and lost quite a lot of time, and in fact only ever had 7 laps in total, whereas someone like David Coulthard, who we're looking at, did 17 laps. Also, David Coulthard left from the United Kingdom to come out here to Canada on Sunday, so he decided to spend a lot more time out here to adapt to the time change, to just get into a program, a training program. Some drivers will leave early. I don't know how Michael Schumacher, whether he did the same thing, but it's what you feel comfortable with. But I never felt comfortable coming at the last moment, because you feel then under pressure all weekend. But Juan Pablo, a very relaxed personality, and no doubt able to dial himself into Canadian time, 5 hours behind that of UK, without any difficulty at all.
That's right, and of course it's more on his home time zone a bit, and he spends quite a lot of time in Miami, somewhat further south, but the time difference not too dissimilar to here in Montreal. So Michael Schumacher engaged in conversation. Sounds like he's talking about the football rather than the motor racing at the moment. Of course, Michael, a very keen footballer himself.
Yes, he does. He's a bit of an amateur footballer, and plays with his local Swiss Canton team. So no doubt a lot of the drivers, certainly a lot of the team principals and team personnel, would have been sneaking a view. I don't know whether it was available in Canada, but there we see some fans who decided a trip to Canada was more productive than that to Japan. And, the prospect of a British driver winning here, probably not as great as it was 2 weekends ago for David Coulthard, as the younger teammate of Coulthard, Kimi Raikkonen, makes his way down this revised pit lane exit in Montreal.
We saw a very impressive run earlier on from Heinz-Harald Frentzen, although he seemed to have some problems towards the end of the session. Ended up 6th fastest. Nick Damon caught up with him just a moment ago.
Heinz-Harald Frentzen, points in 2 out of the last 3 races, and again going quickly already this weekend.
Well, would be nice to be quick here in Canada for us. It's generally a different circuit for us, different circumstances. We have to be good on the brakes here. We're certainly working on a brake system here and the brakes. First to sort this out, and then we think about running quick.
You had a couple of moments under braking. Was it a brake balance problem?
Yeah, we had a brake balance problem this morning. We're just fiddling around with the temperatures.
And quite a bit of a problem with the spin turn as well.
Yeah, a couple of them. Yeah, but everything seems to be all right generally. So we're just working on the brakes at the moment.
How do you feel about the two obvious revisions to the circuit, the changes down there to the last chicane, and also the new pit entry, or pit exit?
I think we drivers are very happy that the track has done this. People here have done some modifications here on this track, and it's an ongoing development, and there's always some room of improvements, but they did a good job this time here, make some corners better. I'm still not happy with my favorite corner, which I've been off the last couple of years 2 times, and it's quite hurting over there still, but I have to see what they can do in the future about that.
But at least this year Michael won't be able to say he didn't see you.
Well, we'll see.
Thanks, Heinz.
Well, Nick there referring to the fact that a couple of years ago Michael just basically drove Heinz-Harald Frentzen off the track, and it wasn't particularly well received by Heinz-Harald at the time, but Michael actually at the time was more angry about what Damon Hill had done to him slightly earlier in the race. But Michael coming through to take victory on that occasion.
Yes, it was one of those rather ugly moments. I was working out in Canada that weekend, and I was pretty scathing in my views on what Michael had done. It just really put Frentzen off the track and consequently then went into the barriers. And nothing really happened to Michael. He didn't really get any penalty for doing so, and by this revision to the pit lane exit, that should hopefully in the future avoid those incidents, and that change down at the Hairpin Bend turn 10 also a scene of incidents, particularly when you get a race, a train of cars, one backing into the other.
Looking at the top speeds that have been recorded, Felipe Massa with in fact the highest top speed from that first session at 331 kilometers per hour, so we're up to about 207, 208 miles per hour now on the run down to that chicane, so we're really seeing some very high figures indeed, and we heard Willy Ramps tell us that they were pretty pleased with their straight line speed. Well, that's why Felipe Massa and Nick Heidfeld actually topping out those maximum speeds on the speed trap running down to the last corner.
And that's very much just been a case of they just taken off downforce to see what the car will do in a straight line, and if you match that top speed to their best lap, you'll find that in fact they don't belong to one another.
Yes, it's all about getting the compromise right between that straight line speed and the downforce that gives you grip through the chicanes themselves. You're riding with David Coulthard here at the moment, heading through turns 3 and 4, now heading up through this very fast sweeping corner. It's flat out through there, but it's still a demanding corner, particularly if you get some rain. Yes,
it's about 240 kilometers per hour on the exit of that corner, and of course then you've got to get the car slowed down for a very tight left-right sequence of corners, and it's a track which in the dry is slippery enough, but in the rain of course you've got to be a lot more circumspect. In fact, it's probably not flat through there unless you happen to be on a really soft sticky wet weather tyre, and that then is totally dependent on what tyre companies choose to bring.
Let's just watch David Coulthard through the hairpin here. See the revs drop down a bit more and then building the speed back up again.
He's just almost 4/10 of a second down, and Barrichello, who is currently quickest on a 16.930. So if Coulthard can maintain that kind of gap, certainly he's going to move forward. He's right now about 1.2 seconds away from Barrichello's time, and let's say split the difference, he should probably move up a couple of places.
Again, nice and close to the wall on the exit of the last corner, across the line. 5th fastest for David Coulthard. That's an improvement in time, and so a good start this second session. There's Adrian Newey taking a look at the monitors, and interesting that there may be some additions to the McLaren design team. Mike Coughlin currently at Arrows on a 2-week break. He's been offered a role at McLaren, but whether that will happen or not, we'll find out in a few weeks' time, no doubt. And that could be looking to the future as Adrian Newey perhaps reduces his involvement with the Formula 1 car. Now, what's going on here? Are there problems for Montoya?
Well, we saw Montoya's car being pushed back in to the garage. Now, we don't know where the car had come to stop. As we assume he'd gone out of the garage and he'd stopped before he'd gotten to pit lane exit. Something caused the team then to push the car back down the pit lane into the garage. and there's something wrong with the transmission, or we could see the rear wheels going round. Now, whether that was when they were trying to, something between the engine and the gearbox or within the gearbox would appear to be a problem. So Juan Montoya, well, he's got this toy to sit and watch the cartoon channel with while the team work on the car.
Enrique Bernaldi similarly frustrated at the moment because his car's still being worked on in the Arrows pit. He pulled off to the side of the road earlier.
Well, this could be further improvement for Coulthard. It is from 5th to 3rd. So that was David's second flying lap this afternoon. And now David Coulthard, fastest of the Michelin runners, about 0.3 of a second behind that of Rubens Barrichello, of course, with Bridgestone, who's fastest so far.
Yeah, the two Ferraris setting the pace earlier on today. Michael Schumacher looked to get an even faster lap before he clipped the wall coming out of the last corner. That was pretty dramatic, damaged the right-hand side of the Ferrari slightly, but he managed to limp back into the pits. And it was just after that his teammate Barrichello set the fastest time. So that brings you up to date. A little bit of tyre smoke from somebody there, heading down to another of the chicanes. And this is the story, really, of Montreal. Heavy braking.
But watch Jarno Trulli, he's on a reasonably quick lap. Trulli all the way down, 13th place.
Oh, and talk about heavy braking, that was a bit too late.
Yeah, he just another little error, just down on the braking, just too late. There's a point at which you can brake and a point at which you're going to lock up your brakes. And you always try to balance that just to mitigate the error that you've made. So Trulli was on a quick lap. Of course, this now is going to change that. In fact, Raikkonen has gone quickest, 16.823.
So Ferrari's been beaten by McLaren. Kimi Raikkonen now fastest as we look at Trulli. Now, we saw Bernaldi a moment ago sitting by the pit wall. Nick Damon managed to find out what's been going on there.
Enrique Bernaldi, it's bad luck to see you sitting on the pit wall. What was the problem with your car last session?
Yeah, I had after a few laps this morning, I had a hydraulic problem and I had to stop in the circuit. So the car is not ready yet for start the second session.
Any idea how long before you can go out?
Maybe 20 minutes more.
And how do you feel about the new circuit layout?
Yeah, there is some parts. It's the curbs are better and also the runoff is better. So I think that doesn't change the real characteristic of the circuit and it's just an improvement.
Best luck rest of the weekend. Thank you.
Well, that was Enrique Bernaldi talking about problems. Here's another man with problems. It's Jarno Trulli, whose car's being pushed away. He's out of the car, but looks like he's not going to get any more running in. Let's take a look at the replay.
Yeah, this is coming into turns 3 and 4, and Trulli just suddenly pulls off. He decides that he knows there's a problem, and he didn't even attempt to continue the lap. Stops the car, gets out very quickly. Now I wonder, is he feeling something in the seat of his pants that he got out so quickly, or is there something that I thought just off camera we saw a little sort of haze of blue smoke or something around where the car had come to a standstill. There's no sign of any liquids or anything on the ground which would indicate it was an engine problem per se. There's no oil or water, but whatever it was happened, and Jarno Trulli decided, that's it, I'm out of this for the rest of the session.
Jenson Button's still running though, so let's see whether he makes up any time on this next lap. Currently Coulthard's on a good lap, Kimi Raikkonen is fastest overall, and let's just see what Button sets. Well, he's not setting a particularly quick pace at the moment, so he's just putting in consistent laps after the problems that he suffered in the first part of the session. Now I gather that we can speak to Dickie Stanford. Dickie, can you hear us all right? Dickie, can you hear us? This is Ben.
Go ahead, Ben, I can hear you.
Great, good to hear from you, Dickie. We see that Montoya's sitting in the pits at the moment. Is there some sort of problem with his car?
Yeah, just a small hydraulic problem. He should be out in about the next 2 or 3 minutes.
That's good news. What's the general feedback from the two drivers been so far today?
We've been suffering with a bit of understeer, but we're beginning to get on top of this now.
Now, there's been a few revisions, we gather, to the car this weekend. What areas have been changed on the Williams this weekend?
There's not that many revisions, just the normal for each race. We are messing with the rear wing, but nothing major. And
now we've seen earlier on this season as well the fact that you've asked the drivers to take particular care on cooling the brakes and looking after the brakes. This track is particularly hard on brakes. Does that mean there have been more developments in those areas?
No, one of the reasons we asked them to be careful with the brakes is that we don't really want to be trying to change brakes during the session.
Yeah. Dickie, it's John. After the Monaco, Juan Pablo was fairly scathing in his criticism about your launch control mechanism. What was that all about?
We had a few problems, John, but we hope we've cured them now.
Yes, well, we shall wait to see. Dickie, thank you very much for joining us, and good luck with the rest of the weekend.
Well, thank you.
So very succinct and straight to the point, typical of Formula One, and Dickie's one of the more generous people when it comes to answering direct questions. But obviously the problem that they had in Monaco, which is really how Montoya lost his advantage of pole position, was partly also down to the racetrack. And but nonetheless, Juan Pablo gave it full throttle in his condemnation.
That's right. Well, Dickie Sanford, one of the most experienced team managers in Formula One. He's been at Williams a long time, starting out as a mechanic for the team, moving up through the ranks, and he's been a team manager a long time, one of the most experienced campaigners in Grand Prix racing, and be keeping a close eye on the progress of his two boys, Ralf Schumacher and Juan Pablo Montoya. But we're riding here with Michael Schumacher.
And let's just watch a master under brakes into right, left, 14-15.
Now this is where he hit the wall earlier. He's got a bit, he leaves a bit more space this time.
He left about 3 feet.
Well,
but he goes quickest, 16.6. So when he just locks up there coming into turn one. Well, Michael Schumacher didn't actually show fastest of any one of those 3 sectors. He had personal best first and third, yet he ends up being quickest on the 1:16.633. Just looking now at pole position from last year, a 1:15.782. So that time now just 9/10 of a second away from pole position in a full qualifying setup with whatever Ferrari would give their drivers. We're going to see a stunning qualifying session.
Yes, I think we're going to see the pole position record absolutely shattered come tomorrow if the weather conditions remain good. Montoya still sitting in the back. We heard from Dickie Stanford that it's a hydraulic problem on his car that they're hoping to get fixed pretty quickly.
Well, Olivier Panis was the man on the move right now. He would ball in that second sector, but now Michael Schumacher's eclipsed even Olivier Panis. Fastest first sector, fastest second sector. Michael Schumacher comes down to the final 2 turns and probably will go fastest of all.
Well, Panis is 5th fastest, so that is a good effort, and let's hope that that bodes well for BAR's weekend. Here comes Michael. This is going to be a much quicker lap. This time he gets out closer to the wall. Where's he going to put it now? Is it going to be into this? No, it's a 1:16.464, so he wasn't quite as quick over the last sector, but still a very rapid lap from the 4-time world champion.
Yes, he's about, it's talking about almost hundredths of seconds away from the fastest lap that anybody has done over those 3 sectors altogether. Nevertheless, Michael, on a run of laps, his previous lap was the quickest. Now he's gone even faster, 1:16.464, and Raikkonen some 0.4 of a second behind in second place.
Looking on down the list, Frentzen down in 13th place, Montoya 14th. As we've seen, he's not been out really in this second session of free practice, and there's a little bit of concern down there for Gerhard Berger, Mario Tyson of BMW, as they see Montoya still not able to get out and do some important data gathering laps.
Yes, well, the little problem that Dickie Stanford, chief engineer at Williams, was telling us about is probably slightly more than that, but nevertheless the look of concern in Berger and Tyson's face indicates where they're coming from. But Giancarlo Fisichella, well, we've been talking about Panis and the BAR. We look at David Richards and go back to Olivier Panis doing a really strong job. Not on this lap, of course. He's been caught in traffic or just backed off, but Giancarlo Fisichella directly behind the BAR, second of the 2 Honda teams this weekend.
On board here with Mark Webber. Down into the hairpin, and you could just see the car twitching around a little bit under braking.
Yes, that's the whole key here. We've heard it from a number of drivers. Is just to find that balance between front and rear braking, but the stability under braking is the major thing that everybody is looking for.
Now watch him through the last corner. Oh, and he gets it a bit sideways out of that last one, but it's great. He keeps it under control and goes across the line. Let's see if that's any improvement. It's not an improvement on that lap. He stays down in 21st.
But you can almost feel Webber. Yeah, I can feel his foot on the brake He knew he couldn't brake any harder, yet he wanted to, because the back end of the car was just dancing around. But Olivier Panis, once again, quickest personal best in first sector, but quickest overall in sector 2. And now it comes down, top speed, we're saying 325. Overall, still Felipe Massa, 331.
Well, this is good stuff from Olivier Panis, the Frenchman who broke his legs here in an accident back in 1997. A few years ago, goes second fastest. So good effort that from Panis. He goes second to Michael Schumacher by about 0.3 of a second. And I'm sure that Jock Clear there on the left-hand side of Jacques Villeneuve, very, very encouraged to see that performance from Panis. We don't know how much fuel's in the car. They may have been running the car a bit lighter, but nonetheless, it's a very impressive run from the Frenchman, and it's going to boost the morale of these guys.
Well, there's a second in difference between Villeneuve and Panis, and if you take about every 10 kilograms of fuel is equivalent to about 0.3 of a second. It may vary slightly circuit to circuit. So maybe Villeneuve's got 30 kilograms more fuel on board than Panis. On the other hand, if he doesn't, Villeneuve should be worried.
Eddie Irvine now. Where are the Jags at the moment? Well, Irvine's 17th. De La Rosa 12th fastest currently. Remember, he was top 10 at the end of the first session. Meanwhile, Bernoldi's car looks as though it's almost ready to be back on track. So the Arrows boys have worked hard, and hopefully we'll have him on circuit very soon.
And it's a fairly empty circuit as we rejoin with Kimi Raikkonen, who went fastest early in this session, still third quickest. And the young Finn on a circuit which is obviously much more easy to adapt to learn to, having been here last year, and really trying to put behind him the nightmare of Monaco weekend.
Yeah, he's had so much bad luck this season. Had a good run here last year though, with Sauber's best ever finish. 4th place he was here last year, so it seemed to suit him, and he'll be hoping for a finish if nothing else this weekend. Last time out, it's all been mechanical problems until last time in Monaco, where he got a hefty clout from Rubens Barrichello, and unfortunately that really ended any chance that he had, and he was a retirement soon afterwards. Just watching him here though, looks controlled, using the curbs, and as we heard from Mark Webber earlier, using the curbs to just the right amount is one of the keys to a fast lap here.
Yes, you've got to be, let's say, not too aggressive in the way you use the curb. Some of them in turn 1 and here, turn 10, you can ride the car over that fairly easily. Raikkonen, fastest up everybody through sector 2. So Raikkonen on a lap that surely should see him improve. He's only got to find a 1/10 of a second to go second quickest. He's got to find 4/10 to go fastest overall. So let's anticipate second quickest for the young Finn.
Doesn't use too much road coming out of that last corner, but he looked to carry a good amount of speed through there. Let's see what the lap time is, a 16.534, and that's an improvement. Second fastest for Raikkonen behind Michael Schumacher.
And really within a blinking distance to Michael Schumacher. But what Raikkonen did, he took a lot of curb. He was aggressive in the use of the curb on the entry to the first part of turns 14, and then aggressive again in the 15. And that's why he didn't run out so wide. He was just using, being an animal in reality.
Well, being an animal is perhaps part of what you need to do here at Montreal to be quick. Now we're on board with Felipe Massa, who you've described as a bit of an animal in the past, John. Let's see whether he's really animaling it over the curves in the same way that we saw Raikkonen. We could see the disc glowing considerably under heavy braking there into the hairpin. But I gather that we've got a chance now to speak to man on the pit wall, the boss of the BAR Honda team, David Richards. David, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I get you loud and clear.
Excellent. Now, we've seen Olivier Panis put in a stunning time, third fastest. Now, I know it's Friday and we mustn't read too much into it, but that must be encouraging for everybody in the team with all the modifications that have been made to the car.
Yeah, it's a good start. As you say, it's only Friday, but nonetheless, you know, it's a boost for everyone, and let's see what happens towards the end of the session now.
Now, have the drivers actually had the chance to drive the cars in their current trim with all the changes? Have you tested with everything that's on the car here today?
Well, today we did quite a lot of testing down at Paul Ricard in the south of France last week. With Olivier drove it for a while, so did Anthony Davidson, our test driver. Jacques hasn't driven it in this configuration at all, and we're still running on the old engine at the moment. We'll have a different engine for tomorrow.
No, but that different engine is not the new Honda that hopefully is coming along. Presumably that's just the sort of developed version of the engine you've been running this year.
Correct, it's an up-spec engine from that we've been running earlier in the season, and certainly a step on from where we are today.
Great, well thank you David for joining us from the pit wall, and let's hope that Olivier's performance today carries on throughout the weekend.
Thank you very much.
Now we're watching the Sauber of Nick Heidfeld on track, and he's gradually moving up the order.
Yes, Heidfeld has been sort of between the bottom bit of the top 10 and the top bit of the bottom 10. So he's now in fact up to 6th place, which is a lot easier to say. And in fact he's being shadowed all the way by his teammate Felipe Massa in 7th place, as we watch once again Kimi Raikkonen, 2nd quickest. Michael Schumacher once again back at the top.
Another point to quickly mention, we're looking at Raikkonen's quick pace here, 2nd fastest. Let's just watch the replay. Oh, well, he did have to use the extra bit of curb on the inside and he backed off.
The reason he did that is because the back end was drifting out as he came through turn 14, so he had to straighten the car up, and the only way to do that was to take the shortcut. Otherwise he maybe would have lost control, and that wall, that concrete wall, is not very comfortable to hit at about 120 miles an hour.
Absolutely not. Well, one thing I'm interested in seeing is the fact that on the speed trap figures, we haven't really seen the McLarens feature this year on the speed traps, but looking at the information we've got here, Raikkonen is 4th fastest through the speed trap towards the last corner. Coulthard is 5th fastest, so McLaren must be running relatively low downforce, but even so, they have not featured on those speed trap figures much this year, and they are today.
But watch Ralph, very quickest of all through the second again, taking bunches of curb on the exit, and this could see Ralf Schumacher for the first time be fastest.
Across the line, Ralph does indeed go fastest, and that should bring a little bit more of a smile, I would have thought, to Gerhard Berger's face. He's looking a little glum at the moment. Ralph fastest by about 1/10 and a half from Michael Schumacher.
Another poker face as we watch teammate Montoya. Oh, gets it all wrong. Under braking once again, the back end starting to wave around. Then he has to put lots and lots of lock. Shows you how much bite those front Michelins had to be able to put that much lock on and still maintain grip.
So let's see, he's only just come out recently, of course, after they had that problem, up to 329.1 kilometers per hour. As you can see, Massa is the fastest so far across that speed trap. Let's see whether this puts Montoya up. He's 14th at the moment, and it puts him up into 6th. So Frank Williams keeps an eye on the monitors as he sees his drivers now 1st and 6th fastest. Last year's race winner Ralf Schumacher has taken the best time. Montoya did make this mistake though.
Yes, watch under brake, watch the back end of the car. Then when he locked up the front, and then the back was a little bit. Again, it's this problem of finding your precise braking point. It is fuel load dependent, as we heard Alan McNish mention earlier. And just if you get it wrong, it just then sets that whole process, that rhythm that you've developed through a lap, upsets it, and you've got to get it back together again. But Rubens Barrichello looks like he's going to get it back together again, because he was fastest in the first sector. He's personal best in 2nd, but keep an eye on Barrichello. He's right now 5th. He could very easily end up being 2nd or 3rd.
Yes, this is a good lap coming up here from Barrichello. Down the longest straight here through the heat haze, and then select your braking point. But select it wrong in this case.
Well, all that good work is for nothing. He just got it wrong again. This judgment on braking is so critical around a circuit that looks so easy, straightforward. You drive around it in a higher car, you might walk around it, you might bicycle around it. But there's Jacques Villeneuve now getting very racy indeed.
Yes, Villeneuve now seeing that Panis has put in some quick times. He himself has gone 5th fastest, so 2 BAR Hondas in the top 5. And we haven't seen that much this season at all. So it looks as though the improvements that Jeffrey Willis, technical director, brought in this year has made to this car is certainly helping.
And look again, the amount of curb that Villeneuve took as he turned into turns 8 and 9, just grabbed the curb and just floored the throttle. Watch the entry. Well, again, that's curb, not a problem. Just gently rode it. Good entry, good exit from Jacques Villeneuve. So personal best in that 2nd sector. So he's got to find, well, he's got to find a 1,000th or so of a second to put teammate Panis, who is 4th, into 5th. And that's the position Villeneuve holds as we come down to these final 2 corners.
Yes, through there, and he gets safely through that section. Hit that wall in the same year that Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill all collected the wall on the outside. Villeneuve stays 5th fastest though with that last lap. On the right there's Jeffrey Willis, the man who's responsible for the technical changes that have been made to this car. And it certainly does look a little better. They have qualified 6th on the grid here for the last 2 years. Olivier Panis and Jacques Villeneuve respectively, the previous 2 years at this track. But this 2002 season has not seen BAR Honda anywhere near that sort of performance. Let's hope they are going to be in the top 10. Look at Michael.
I mean, that personal best in second sector, but he's not half trying. Now, that doesn't see any improvement or change to his time. What does show you is Michael Schumacher preparing for this lap to be a little bit special as we go back now to Mika Salo, who's coming up while he's going into the pits. But Michael Schumacher right on the ragged edge as he came out of turn 15, and once again we got within, well, you can't imagine how close to clipping the wall. So we just keep an eye on the sector times. Nothing special. It's about a tenth down on what we've seen, the quickest overall so far. So we go back to Michael Schumacher now, coming down this long, meandering, we call it a straight under the bridge, bumpy, not as bad as it used to be. And then these two turns, two good corners, particularly the exit of turn 9. You can really let the car float right out to the barrier. Great feeling as a racing driver.
Now down to the hairpin. Watch that disc glow. Very short braking. It's astonishing how short a time. And he's coming down from... Now through the final corner, and this lap is not going to be an improvement, I don't think. Ralf Schumacher still fastest, and there goes brother Michael, just that little bit slower, a 16.624, and that's only a fraction off his best so far.
Yeah, he did actually improve very fractionally, but didn't make any difference to his position.
Now Giancarlo Fisichella here. He's been running well so far today. The Italian has dropped down the order a bit now though, 13th fastest, but in the first session he was right up there.
Well, it just shows how things change in Formula One. And a track like this, literally, if you go to the pits for 10 minutes, you could be quickest, and you could find after 10 minutes you've gone down to 10th, maybe 6th at best. And for that applies the entire way, bits of rubber coming off the track. And Giancarlo Fisichella, beautiful, lovely, sweet exit from the Italian. And Fisichella 13th, and he goes all the way up to 9th.
Yeah, so good effort that for Giancarlo. He really throws it into that first corner, doesn't he? And turning in on the brakes, the car really reacting, but had it all under control. Very nicely done.
Yeah, a lot of confidence to do that, and Giancarlo Fisichella getting a lot. I think he's probably getting everything you can out of the Jordan these days.
Just thinking back, John, you know, he couldn't drive with this sort of confidence at the beginning of the year. Do you remember how much the car was twitching around, particularly mid-corner? They do seem to have got it sorted better, don't they?
I think that might coincide with the change of technical direction. Ekbold Hamadi no longer a part of Jordan Grand Prix. Gary Anderson now back and very much in charge, along with Henri Durand on the aerodynamics side, and the team realising that what they had at the start of the year was a bit of a pup, and what they've got now is a car which is pretty efficient, and the most important thing, well, not doing that, Giancarlo, that's just another lap you've just blown, but it's to give the driver confidence. Not maybe so much in the case of Fisichella. He's mature, he's experienced, he understands Formula One, but for a youngster, and there's the oil flag out now, that is liquid on the track. You can see that black swathe, and who did that come from, we hopefully will see, but that will spoil many people's plans.
Let's get 101 ready, please.
Yeah, I'm not sure who that was. It was just before the pit entry, so whoever had a problem probably came straight into the pits, and we didn't see who that was. Fisichella continues round. His teammate Takuma Sato, Takuma Sato still down in 21st position. He's done 26 laps, but really hasn't set any particularly quick times so far. Fisichella's popped up to 9th. Sato about a second and a half slower than his teammate so far as he gets used to this Montreal track, and I'm sure under fairly strict instructions not to go wild on this first day. Now there is our fastest man so far, Ralf Schumacher, just that fraction ahead of his brother Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari. The two McLarens, 3rd and 4th, Barrichello 5th fastest, Panis is 6th ahead of Villeneuve, his teammate, and Montoya now finds himself down in 8th ahead of Fisichella 9th. De La Rosa putting in another goodish lap because he's popped up into the top 10 again, just ahead of Jenson Button, Nick Heidfeld and Felipe Massa. The two Saubers not going quite as quick as we might have thought, down in 12th and 13th. Then it's Frentzen 14th and Mika Salo in 15th place.
Well, I think for Sauber they're just going through a regular Friday day's work schedule, and they've got exactly halfway through the session, 30 minutes remaining. And I would expect to see towards the end of the session, whichever the preferred tyre is by the teams, and they've got to work through the two options, they then will fit a new set of that tyre and just go out and get a benchmark, bearing in mind that it is anticipated to be a wet qualifying session on Saturday. so they will want to know what the car is capable of, just to get as much information as you can as soon as possible now.
Jarno Trulli, as we saw, had a problem with his car, mechanical problem of some sort, but he has made it back to the pits, and I believe that we can catch up with him. Nick Daban speaking to Jarno Trulli.
Really bad luck on the pit wall a bit early in this session. What was the problem?
We don't know yet, but apparently it's something like maybe the engine or hydraulic. Well, we're not sure about it.
How do you feel at the end of the first session? Were you happy with the progress the car and you were making here?
Yes, obviously it was only the first session. We had only a couple of runs, so it would have been important to be on the track in the second session. So obviously I'm a little bit disappointed. Hope it's going to be better tomorrow for me.
Brake's very important here. Is that a strong point of the team's package?
I feel that we got a good package and the car seems quite good under braking, but obviously I can't tell much today.
Jarno, bad luck rest of the weekend. Thanks a lot.
Well, let me tell you, David Richards, there he is. He was speaking to us a little while ago, and his man Olivier Panis has backed off, but he had just set the fastest first sector time. So he's backed off on this lap. He made a mistake down at the hairpin. Looked like David may well have been speaking to him. But I tell you what, this is an impressive performance at the moment for the BAR Honda team.
And Heinz-Harald Frentzen dropped down all the way to 14th place. So Heinz has got personal best first and second sector, so should improve. And he does. Frentzen goes up to 8th quickest. Whoa, look at the way he chucked it in. Oh, too much, Heinz. You were greedy there. You really gave it maximum attack, and you didn't have room to recover for turn 2.
Still, he keeps it in one piece. That's the important thing, as Kimi Räikkönen clatters over the curbs, and this should be a reasonable lap. Let's see, Räikkönen currently in 4th position. I don't think it's any improvement though. So across the line he goes, 1:16.534 as opposed to a 1:16.518 for David Coulthard. The two McLaren drivers very evenly matched.
And then interestingly, Ralf Schumacher's time now is actually fractionally quicker than he did in qualifying last year. And last year Ralf Schumacher was in the front row of the grid with Michael.
Yeah, that's an interesting situation. They were the other way round. Michael had the pole, but Ralf currently fastest and was the one who ended up that little faster. The track has been changed a little bit, and that is part of the reason, I'm sure. But nonetheless, some very quick times being seen as the tyre war continues between Michelin and Bridgestone.
Yeah, I love this exit of that corner, exit turn 9. Let the car float all the way out, then this slightly revised hairpin bend, you have to get on the brakes slightly sooner than you would have done normally. There's probably about an extra 25-30 metres of runoff there of that high grip tarmac. But Räikkönen, personal fastest in that first sector. It's about 3/10 down in the potential best in that second sector. So Räikkönen, well, marginal improvement of any. Maybe if one place David Coulthard would be the victim.
But I tell you what, Ralf Schumacher, look at Räikkönen. Right out to the wall there. Räikkönen crossing the line, and it's a 16.6, but Ralf Schumacher's on a very quick lap. He's currently fastest through the first sector. David Coulthard looking like he's coming out on new tyres, so that'll be one of the options. Takuma Sato up to something there, as Ralf Schumacher's gone fastest through the second sector as well.
Well, Ralf Schumacher, we don't know whether he had new rubber fitted or not, but certainly times indicate something working to his advantage. As we see the Williams come down, this is the final straight before turns 14 and 15. And just watch the amount of curb he takes. Oh, very good, you know, economy of use of racetrack. Will this be near pole? Well, look at that, 1:16.018. Pole last year, 1:15.782. And that's within what, just under 3/10, and he spun it down at turn 2.
Well, he took a little bit too much speed into that one, but he'd already done a quick lap.
Montoya also on it. Montoya fastest of all now in sector 2, as Ralf Schumacher just increases his lead. So Juan Pablo Montoya doesn't look as good. The car looks like a little bit more understeer mid-corner and on the exit. Let's see whether he can improve or not. He does! 1:15.702. That is faster than last year's pole position, and we haven't yet finished Friday afternoon.
That's amazing, as the track still needs to clean up more. Ralf Schumacher and Juan Pablo Montoya showing that the Williams BMW package is fast indeed. And remember, Williams nearly always run a lot of weight in the car, a lot of fuel. This was a look at Ralph's spin, and no major problems, just carrying a little bit too much speed into the second part of the first S-bend. But Juan Pablo Montoya has gone 0.3 of a second faster than his teammate on that last lap.
And now we're getting a track beginning to become busy, and of course inevitably always you get the cars bunched up together. You've got a 2.747 mile lap, about 7 cars out, but they're all in the same part of the track.
Yes, that was De La Rosa. I don't know if he had a problem or whether he was just getting out of the way of Montoya. I think he might have just been getting out of the way because he's continued round. The Jaguar moving on to the grass. David Coulthard currently 4th fastest, but seeing the 2 Williams on the Michelin tyres going that little bit quicker in the last few minutes of this free practice session. Again, it's always so hard to read anything into Friday running, but it's promising to see the evenness of competition at the top here between Williams, Ferrari and McLaren for that matter at this point.
Well, sometimes it happens on a Friday, you get a bit of a maverick or a rogue time. Of course, then by the time qualifying comes on Saturday, everybody's back into their sort of regular slots. But right now what we're seeing are the top 2-3 teams occupying those top 5 slots. Panis is the one maybe out of sync with everybody else, and Barrichello rounds out the top 3 teams in 7th place.
Heidfeld crosses the line, nothing too impressive there, 11th fastest currently. We will try and keep an eye on Coulthard. He's come round on his out lap, and we'll see where he's coming up. This was Montoya, and that was De La Rosa. I think he must have made a mistake, and he wasn't trying to move out of the way that much.
No, I think he may have seen a car behind him, but I think he just lost where he was on the racetrack and just made a slight driver error. Jacques Villeneuve pushing again hard, still looking to make up that difference, the 0.2 of a difference between Panis and Jacques Villeneuve.
Coulthard actually did come into the pits again, having gone out on those new tyres, so he's not on a lap at the moment. Villeneuve certainly attacking those curbs well. Hasn't always had good results. He's made a few mistakes in Canada over the years on his home race, but looking pretty good at the moment. Fastest time through the first sector.
And he really had that, the VAR dancing through turns 3 and 4. Jacques Villeneuve, of course, his girlfriend is a ballet dancer. Maybe he's learned a little bit about a pas de deux. But I mean, ability in abundance. Application, well, sometimes you wonder. But given a car that's quick, there's nobody out there who will be more committed than Jacques Villeneuve.
That's right. This is still going to be a good lap from Jacques Villeneuve. It won't take over the fastest time from Juan Pablo Montoya, but let's just watch him now through the last section of the track and see where it puts him. Down into the right-hander. Looks smooth on the way into the corner. Good speed carried through and out, close to the wall but not too close. And this puts Villeneuve up. Where does it put him? It puts him 3rd. So that's a great, and listen to the cheer from the crowd. Fantastic response. There's his manager Craig Pollock, the man who was boss of the team, but must be pleased to see the improvement in performance there. Villeneuve 3rd fastest. Panis has been pushed down to 7th with a number of others making improvements.
Well, great news for the Canadian fans and for Canada in general. They've been waiting for the moment where they could really cheer their hero. Now, okay, Friday afternoon is still Friday afternoon. Nevertheless, it's better to be up there, in spite of what I said about a few suspects sometimes being out of their natural slots. So VAR clearly seemingly happy with the performance increase that they've benefited from, these revisions to aerodynamics, and also maybe small but not necessarily significant upgrades from Honda.
Great view once again as you look at the front suspension working, and look at the response. Fantastic. He's really getting the applause from the Canadian fans here. Oh, it would be so good to see Jacques have a good weekend. BARs have never managed to get into the points in Canada. It would be quite something if they could manage it, because they haven't scored any points at all so far this season.
Well, let's just check this lap. Jacques Villeneuve's 1:16.448, and it's a 1:21.866. So clearly, just let's say a cooling down lap. Again, watching that push rod, the diagonal rod that runs from the wheel, the bottom of the wheel, up to the chassis, and that activates the spring and the dampers, whether they're helical springs or torsion bars. But it's quite a lot of suspension movement. We actually, thinking back to Monte Carlo, where cars run marginally softer than they would do here, but quite a lot of suspension movement on that front suspension, much more than maybe you would normally expect to see on a Formula 1 car around a circuit that is pretty much a smooth track.
Yes, but one where you have to use the curbs to be quick, so allowing for that a little bit as well. Coulthard currently on a pretty good lap here, and let's see if he keeps it tidy. Yes, he does. That was beautiful into the hairpin, just right.
And this could see David Coulthard go from currently 5th place up to behind Ralf Schumacher and Montoya in the Williams, so it could be a Michelin 1, 2 and 3. Jacques Villeneuve's time is under threat as David Coulthard comes through. How much curb do you take? He's not as aggressive on the curb as others, but runs wide on the exit.
Yeah, still looking pretty good. Let's see what this does for Coulthard. It puts him 3rd, so right behind the 2 Williams, and David Coulthard showing that the Michelin tyre, now that the track's coming in a little bit, the Michelin tyre seems to be responding. We know he was on a virtually new set of tyres then when he went out, but nonetheless a 16.186 from David Coulthard, the winner last time out in Monaco. You're looking at Takuma Sato, the Japanese driver. In his debut season with Jordan, he's had a very torrid time most of the time with lots of accidents and mishaps, but currently he is 21st fastest. He's done some 31 laps, so he's had plenty of track time, but he hasn't set a particularly quick time. And there is Eddie Irvine, one of the most experienced drivers, and of course now the oldest Formula 1 driver currently racing.
And that's something he does not like to be reminded of publicly, because he's still a bit of a lad, and Eddie loves the world and life of being a Formula 1 Grand Prix driver.
A little difficult to hear. So talking about the ride height of the car.
For set 4, please. No, just give me an idea of where you're setting it, possibly.
And trying to concentrate on where...
Ready for a ride height change as well, looking at probably going +1 front and rear.
And look at that time from Kimi Räikkönen. Listening to the Williams radio, Räikkönen's just gone 2nd fastest.
Same sequence for starting the engine again, so I'll have the engine cover off, brake fuel in the airbox.
And that was a very good, clean lap from Räikkönen. Watched him on that high camera angle, looking at him coming down the fastest part of the circuit through that final right-left chicane, and Kimi Räikkönen really had it hooked up as we go to teammate David Coulthard. Again, look at that, look at the difference. I mean, right on the pace of Juan Pablo Montoya. So clearly what we've seen starting of the day, Bridgestone had an advantage. Now, Bridgestone have not yet gone back out with Michael and Barrichello on brand new tyres, where we are seeing that from the Michelin runners, but David Coulthard could easily find himself now up to 2nd quickest.
Well, I have to say this is very encouraging indeed to see McLaren competitive here. We didn't really expect that so much, despite Coulthard's win last time out. Look, he's gone 2nd, so he's displaced Räikkönen by 1 position, and they've got to within a 10th of the fastest so far set by Juan Pablo Montoya. Now, the thing is, we haven't seen the Ferraris out for a while in this session, so...
Kimi, again, the way he's so aggressive on that lap. The previous one he was much more smooth, but then he just came and he just pulled on the steering wheel. The back end said, that's too much, I can't deal with it. And of course he had to go across that bit of no man's land in the lap. Let's watch again, watch his hands, how he turns in. It's aggressive the way he does it. He sort of feels it and then he gives it a tug, and the back end just steps out and says, no thanks, not this time.
Well, Montoya is this so far. We've got Coulthard, Räikkönen, Ralf Schumacher, Villeneuve, Michael Schumacher now down in 6th. But as I say, the Ferraris have not been out for a while, and this track's just getting faster and faster as it cleans up. So really had a relative lap from a Ferrari to compare Montoya's time against. It's still encouraging to see the battle between McLaren and Williams so close.
Toyota doing pretty well. Mick Casalo is just beginning a lap, and he's within a 10th of a second of the time that we saw from Montoya a little bit earlier in this. So Mick Casalo, again, I suspect on new tyres as we watch Michael Schumacher leave pit lane, this revised pit lane exit. David Coulthard comes back into pits.
Yep, Coulthard's in, Räikkönen still out there at the moment. Taking a look at Kimi Räikkönen, look at him using the curbs. Oh, the car really bouncing its way over the curve there, and the flex in the tyres and the work that the chassis is doing, really fascinating to look at. Locking up the right front slightly, really hurling it around.
You could see the front of the car was almost like a ratcheting effect. Minute movements on that slow-mo camera, of course, it gives you an idea of what you can have to contend with it. But Mika Salo just then, Mika Salo and Toyota, 7.
Yeah, good effort that from Mika Salo, and that puts them into the top 10 now. Nick Heidfeld, you're looking at, is down in 14th position. So Sauber have some work to do. His teammate Felipe Massa is down in 16th. Here we are with Mika Salo. Now, I'm not sure whether this next lap will be as quick, but still, we've just seen a good one from him into 7th place.
I think he'll probably be marginally down. We're not seeing any greens or purples coming up for the Finn, and a fresh set of tyres give up their best on that first flying lap. But good effort from Toyota, their first visit here. Mika Salo, of course, familiar with the racetrack, but teammate Alan McNish all the way down to 19th. I wonder what he's going to do when he gets a set of brand new rubber, and can he get the 2 Toyotas, or the second Toyota, up into the top 10. Michael pushing very hard as he comes through turn 1 and 2.
Yeah, let's watch Michael Schumacher in action in the Ferrari 2002. This car that has been so dominant this year, particularly in the hands of Michael Schumacher, but also in the hands of his teammate Rubens Barrichello. And he is pushing very hard. Let's see the sector time. He's up already on Montoya's sector time.
21.380, and that's personal best for Michael Schumacher. Not the fastest we've seen through that sector. Nevertheless, Michael Schumacher will push and comes down now into these turns 8 and 9. Easy to outbrake yourself. It is bumpy under that bridge. You've got very sudden, light, dark light situation down out of this revised hairpin bend.
And this is 5,000.
Looks like it could be quickest.
Yes, it looks like it, but by how much, that's the question. Last section of the track still to deal with, and Montoya has the fastest sector time through this last part. Top speed 3:23.9, not a particularly high top speed across the track, but pretty wide out of that last corner. Let's see where this time puts him. It puts him 4th, so lost a little bit on that last sector.
Yes, he did. I think just getting again so close to the barrier, I think it may have just had to breathe the engine momentarily just to check the slide of the car as it was getting close to the barrier, and just drifted away. Picked up places, but not maybe as much as we anticipated from the first 2 sectors.
Just taking a look at Felipe Massa. What's he been up to? A replay here. Coming through the one
6 and 7. Oh.
Yeah, got it a bit out of shape. Just looking back at Schumacher's time there, the speed trap wasn't as high. I wondered if Ferrari were running a bit more downforce, and that would explain on that last sector, because you're flat out for such a long section there. Speed trap figure wasn't that high. Perhaps they put a bit more downforce on, and perhaps that's why that final section of the lap wasn't as quick as the earlier sectors.
Well, it's all about balance all the way around a lap, and of course that last sector from track, from turn 10 all the way down to turns 14 and 15 is effective. Undo all the benefits you'd gain the first half of the lap, so I suspect maybe it's more a tyre factor than it would be just simply downforce. But Ferrari still running relatively high downforce loads in comparison to Williams. They're going for lap time rather than out speed.
So he completes another lap. All useful work that he's doing here towards the qualifying and of course the race on Sunday itself. Through the first corner, fantastic grandstands on the outside, beautiful spot to watch Formula 1 cars there. They're heading down towards that first corner very quickly on the brakes and through the S-bend. It's a really great viewing spot for Formula 1 just about anywhere in the world.
Giancarlo Fisichella showing personal best, but so is Olivier Panis. But Panis is the quicker of these 2 Honda engine teams by about 0.2 of a second. And Fisichella is coming, I'm just looking at the map to see, well, Panis is coming down towards the hairpin as Giancarlo Fisichella exits the hairpin.
Yes, Fisichella trying to improve on 12th fastest. This could be an improvement for him, but not quite as far up the order as he was earlier on. The Michelin tyre seems to be working that little bit better in this second session. And look at that, uses the curves but keeps his foot hard on the throttle and gets good drive off the corner, and his time keeps him in 12th position currently as he just hops it into the first part of this Senna S as it's known. And there, right behind, Olivier Panis.
Olivier Panis, well, 6th personal best, 1:16.333, and now
what's he been up to? Let's take a look at another replay. We seem to be doing a lot of replays of Felipe Massa at the moment.
Well, he seems to have a problem. Either he's going into the corner, I suspect he's turning in on brakes, off throttle, and the back ends just, and also maybe the rake of the car, the attitude of the ride height between the front of the car and the rear of the car. He may have a little bit of too much rake in it. You can't really tell looking at that, but those symptoms are what I would feel when I'd just go back into the pits and say, take some of the rake out, put a little bit more of the centre of pressure, the aerodynamic load back towards the rear of the car, give me a bigger comfort zone, and then let me creep back forward once I've got my confidence back.
Now, Montoya, fastest overall, but only by a tenth and a half from David Coulthard. Now, presumably he was on new tyres earlier. I shouldn't think that he's on new tyres, but that's a good lap nonetheless. So this is take a look at this. He hasn't completed the lap, but on the split times, this is another very quick lap indeed.
Well, that middle section again just showing the strength of the Williams, BMW and the Michelin combination. Juan Pablo Montoya has been getting on with, I'd say fairly quietly, but doing a very strong job. Not as aggressive through that final right-left as Ralf Schumacher is, and maybe that's where some of the time comes from.
Across the line, and it's a further improvement for Juan Pablo Montoya. His dad has a quick look at the monitor, and I'm sure he'll be fairly happy about that. You know, Juan Pablo lost a lot of time on the Friday here last year. They had a gearbox problem, and he didn't get many laps in, only qualified 10th, crashed out on lap 19. He said it was the nadir, really, of his Formula One season last year, and he's obviously determined to make up for it this time. That was a replay of the incident where we saw Massa getting it all a bit wrong. I'm sure he got a good cheer from the crowd down there on that first corner. And this is Alex Young also making a little mess of things.
Well, Alex Young, lovely chap, all that, but in spite of what his team boss says, Paul Stoddard, he's beginning to show signs of being slightly out of his depth in Formula One. Nevertheless, brings substantial funding to the Minardi team, and as long as he can get in the race, then the funding will be there, and maybe given him a more competitive car, Alex Young could do much better, as Paul Stoddard says.
All right, let's see if this is a further improvement for Salo. I think it will be. He's 8th, and that puts him up to 6th. So good improvement for Mika Salo on board the Toyota. And Ange Pasquale there, and Ove Anderson on the left. Team boss looking reasonably happy with the progress of their number one driver, Mika Salo, but McNish has certainly been matching him well in recent races. Great effort in Monaco, with both cars qualifying in the top 10. That really was an astonishing performance. McNish very cross with himself afterwards for making the mistake early on in the race and hitting the barrier at Saint-Deveau.
Heinz-Harald Frentzen, watch him through. Mature and experienced entry and exit. Frentzen 11th. Well, let's see if he can find another couple of places. When he finds one, he goes 10th.
So the Arrows with the Cosworth power once again outpacing the Jaguars, although only by one position at the moment. De La Rosa is 11th.
Well, day C, we don't know whether both or all these Michelin tired teams have run the two choices, but I suspect that they've come to a decision and now going to go out as we see Ralf Schumacher coming back in. So just 6.5 minutes of this session remaining. Plenty of time for Coulthard to get an out lap, one really good clear lap, and Ralf Schumacher then just does another launch control start. As we look down this high shot, there's one of the BARs. This is a replay. We're looking to see something's going to happen down here, no doubt. Well, Michael Schumacher comes very slowly. Now he pulls across. What has happened?
Dear oh dear, problems for Michael Schumacher. You have to wonder whether something went wrong earlier on, or is he just making space and seeing who else is around at the moment? Did he carry on round? Yes. So, okay, what he's doing there is getting himself a good gap to the cars ahead, making sure there was no one else coming past, and then obviously going on to a quick lap, I should think.
Yeah, pretty unusual to see him move just so abruptly across the track. I mean, he's got mirrors, he could see a car coming. I mean, drivers' eyes, when they're charged with adrenaline, have got incredible visibility. So he just pulled sharp right and then pulled it gradually back to the left again.
More work going on down there at the Williams pit. Looks like a change of rear wing is in order. Or they're just taking the rear wing off and doing some other work around the rear of the car. Engine cover off as well. As you see, we've only got just over 5 minutes. Now, David Coulthard going on to a lap on a new set of tyres. Let's keep a close eye on the times here for the Scotsman.
Again, look at this, that oscillation we've seen from that Michelin tyre. Notice it more so on McLaren than we do on any other Michelin team. And really what we're seeing on Friday here in Montreal is more like Saturday morning. Teams are really beginning to do something akin to a qualifying setup
Look at that time, John.
Almost 4/10 of a second. Well, that's a bunch of time. We're going to see a time, if Coulthard can maintain this pace, somewhere maybe in a high 1:14. That's a bunch of time to find, but he's taken a bunch out of it in that 21-second sector.
Wow, this is going to be quite some lap for David Coulthard. He's qualified on the front 2 rows in the last 4 years here in Montreal. We didn't think that McLaren would have a car to challenge for a front row starting position here, but it might be a different story. They look to have made some good improvements. Not fastest in the middle sector, but still up overall.
He's up by about maybe 2/10 of a second. He lost about a further 2/10 in that middle sector for no apparent reason. We couldn't see anything that indicated a problem. Watch him through this final. Well, looks pretty neat and good. Difficult to tell the on-board. It doesn't always just give you the true story. Well, he's up by a 10th, just over a 10th, 1:15.4. Potentially, there's more than that lap time available to David Coulthard.
Good lap then for Coulthard. He goes fastest in this Friday free practice session, the Monaco winner, showing great pace once again ahead of Montoya. His teammate is Raikkonen in 3rd. Michael Schumacher is 4th, Ralf Schumacher 5th, but Michael Schumacher is heading round, so's Barrichello. You're looking at Barrichello at the moment on a reasonable lap, but I don't think it's going to be anything that special. He's coming down through across the line, 8th fastest only for Barrichello at the moment.
That, in fact, also was Barrichello's fastest lap of the day so far, but one suspects that they haven't used the tyre options available to them. They've been going through probably quite a protracted day's work. So Barrichello with, well, 3 minutes remaining. There's no time to come in, fit a set of tyres and go back out again and get a lap in before the flag comes out.
Yes, we're going to struggle probably to be able to drain all this out and get some in. Can you give us a figure to drain out?
There's no point bothering because you haven't got time.
Well, maybe I suppose if he gets out with just a couple of minutes, he would still get a lap in before the checkered came out. As long as he gets out of the pit lane, I suppose, that's the key thing. And they're having to work pretty fast, but as you can see, no panic down there. It's just quick, efficient work. And Mika Salo sitting in the pits, currently 6th fastest with that good effort. McNish finding himself down in 20th, but they may well have been experimenting with different things here this afternoon. Trulli and Young are the last 2 at the moment. Of course, Trulli, we know, is out of the session with mechanical problems. Alex Young, though, has completed 54 laps, and I think that's more than anybody else has done so far.
I think it's more than the whole field has done, but Alex Young are needing track time and just having the opportunity to learn the circuit, and there's no pressure. It doesn't matter what you do today. It only matters when it comes to qualifying. As we look at Jenson Button, who's had a bit of a mixed day also, down in 15th, and really having now to shoulder the responsibility of Jarno Trulli as well as his own work schedule.
Yes, that's right. Let's see. They've both had problems today. Button had a misfiring engine in the first session, so he lost laps, and now Trulli's lost laps in this second session. So I should think Renault's worksheet will not be complete by the end of today. That'll be a little frustrating for them.
And team boss Nicky Lauda still looking as scruffy as ever in those jeans. I don't know why he bothers wearing them. Walks back into the pits, and again rumour and pressure on his position, and really the team waiting for the British Grand Prix when all these aerodynamic updates are going to come. But I just hope that their expectation and the delivery fulfill. Michael Schumacher now on a lap, not just personal best in first sector, but fastest, highest top speed as we go now to the world champion, coming down to the middle part of sector 2.
Still a little bit of dust around, and carbon brake dust also being kicked off under heavy braking. Montoya has gone out, as you saw, but he will get the checkered flag next time around, so he won't get a flying lap. All he'll be able to do is see how the car feels if they've made some changes. Schumacher slightly slower than Coulthard. So Coulthard is going to finish the Friday here in Montreal with the fastest time, ahead of the Williams of Montoya and the other McLaren of Kimi Raikkonen. Michael Schumacher coming through the last corner, hit the wall earlier on today, still been attacking, but Ferrari perhaps not showing their full capabilities. But I do think that we're set for a closer battle in qualifying this weekend than we have seen on some previous occasions.
Montoya fastest of everybody in that second sector. We're still watching Michael Schumacher, and this is the last lap. The flag is out. This session finally is over. But Juan Pablo Montoya, very slow first sector, but blindingly quick in that second.
That was because he'd just gone out, John, the first sector, so he'd only just gone out on this lap. But his middle sector, once he got up to speed immediately, and his last sector, fastest overall for Montoya. He did a 1:18.8 on his out lap. That's pretty impressive. And so Montoya, who has now picked up the checkered flag, showing that the Williams has real pace. And that was very impressive indeed from Montoya. And I think Ferrari will look at those split times that we're looking at on our data screen. And if you want to have a look, go to channel 5, remember, on the interactive, and you'll see that Montoya's split times, well, in fact he's now moved on to his next lap, but his split times were very, very impressive.
And sometimes you wonder whether teams really want to show their hand that early, as again Michael Schumacher just skims down the wall and he takes checkered flag, and Michael Schumacher is third place.
Yeah, good lap though. That was an improvement in lap time for him. It doesn't improve his position, but Montoya here did receive the checkered flag, so he will have to come in at the end of the lap.
So Williams clearly have got plenty of pace. BMW engine's got plenty of grunt on a circuit, which is ideal, and a pretty ideal day too. Ambient temperature only about 21-22 degrees, which is just about perfect, and track temperature a little bit warmer, 35 degrees.
So I should think the Williams crew are fairly happy with the way things have been going, and BAR have been going well. Matt can speak to Jacques Villeneuve.
Thanks for joining us. If ever there was a weekend in which you wanted to do well, it's this one. How do you feel after the first day?
The car feels good, but we're not going to go much quicker tomorrow. We took the fuel out today to see how the car felt more under qualifying trim, and the car feels quite good, but you know, it depends if other people took fuel out as well or not.
David Richards tells us that you get a new engine tomorrow. What effect do you think that might have?
The new engine, we tested it in Silverstone, and we weren't happy with it yet, so we're not going to run it this weekend.
Do you dare to dream, Jacques, about a podium this weekend?
You just said the word, dreaming about it, because we need to be lucky to get it.
OK, Jacques, good luck anyway. Thanks for joining us.
So just looking at the times set in the free practice today, the combined time seeing David Coulthard go fastest overall for McLaren Mercedes, ahead of Juan Pablo Montoya in the Williams BMW, and Michael Schumacher third fastest. Look at the Bridgestones, not so quick in this second session. They dominated the first session, but Raikkonen, Ralf Schumacher and Mika Salo all getting their Michelin tired cars into the top 6. Then Panis, followed by Barrichello, and then Villeneuve and Frentzen, and then outside the top 10 just Pedro de la Rosa ahead of Fisichella. Bernoldi putting in a reasonable effort considering he was restricted in the number of laps he had. Bit disappointing for Renault. Jenson Button ending up 15th, truly ending up a long way down because his car broke down during the session, but they must be a little bit concerned, I would think. I'm sure they were running plenty of fuel, but not really competitive with McLaren, who they have been challenging at times this year. There's Trulli at the back, and Alex Young, despite the 56 laps completed, still over half a second slower than Jarno Trulli's time. So that's how the 22 cars have finished up today. I think this man will be reasonably happy with today's performance.
Well, I think what we saw at the end of that out lap was pretty impressive. In fact, the lap generally was very impressive indeed. And Juan Pablo Montoya's got a spring in his step as he walks down. And I think he might think, I've got a good chance here this weekend, and particularly on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, of course, qualifying may be a different story. We'll have to wait and see what happens. They've still got 2 more sessions of free practice to deal with tomorrow and build up towards the qualifying session, and we're going to see some very, very rapid times. And that's interesting. Jeff Willis actually coming out to have a quick word with Montoya, saying, well done, that was pretty good. My old car's not doing badly at all, is it?
Yeah, he's probably saying my new car's not doing badly either.
Of course, he was at Williams, now the man responsible for the changes to BAR. There's Trulli's car. What do you reckon, John? The Renaults were a little bit disappointing, weren't they?
They were pretty impressive initially, and then all of a sudden, I mean, Button had a problem the first part of the first session. He's probably a bit behind the 8 ball. Then Trulli suddenly, just at the beginning of that second session, coming into turns 3 and 4, all of a sudden he just bailed out of the throttle, pulled the car off. Whatever it was pretty chronic, and a big setback for Renault this weekend, I would say.
Well, it's been a glorious day in Montreal. Let's take a look back at some of the highlights today.
How long have we got here, Charlie?